No question, this is a tough blow for the Edmonton Oilers organization as they do not match the offer sheets on Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, making two of the organization's top young talents now members of the St. Louis Blues. Just to put it into perspective, Broberg stepped in during the Stanley Cup final and gave the Oilers the best minutes of his NHL career, and looked to be heading heavily on an upward trajectory. He was scheduled to be likely a third-pairing defenseman this season who would push for second-pairing minutes. Dylan Holloway bowled his way through the Oiler lineup at playoff time and was one of their more reliable forwards, effort and intensity-wise, during the playoffs this year. He was a third-line player who was likely pushing for second-line minutes this upcoming season. So two very good young players that the Oilers are now without. So why did this happen? Why did the Oilers choose not to match? Well, in order to match, it would have put them in cap hell, basically, and they would have severely limited their flexibility heading into this season. Would have put them in a position where when Evander Kane was ready to come back into the lineup, they would have had to move mountains and massive amounts of money, and any trades they tried to do at that point in the season, they would have been dealing from a severe position of weakness. This would have really handcuffed them to match on both players. Even matching on one could have put them in a similar situation. So Stan Bowman electing to bring in a couple of players that can compete for similar minutes in the lineup in the trades that he made. And he also cleared up additional cap space with the move of Cody Ceci, which the Oilers had to do this summer, and maintain flexibility heading into this season. Bottom line, the Oilers blue line is not as good as it was in the postseason. And it's now up to Stan Bowman to figure out a way to piecemeal it together to allow this team to be one of the better teams in the NHL and certainly one of the best teams in the conference, which is where the bar now sits. So can he put a blue line together that can maintain that level to get them through to the trade deadline where potentially they will have accumulated some cap space and can make a move to try and put them over the top? It's a step back on the blue line, no question. That is his challenge heading into the regular season. Some other info that we know: the Oilers did enter into negotiations with Broberg before these offer sheets happened. 2 years at $1.1 million was their offer, according to Broberg's agent Darren Ferris, who also tells me there were multiple other teams prepared to move with this offer sheet strategy against the Oilers. So if it wasn't the Blues, sounds like it would have been another team. Why were these players exposed if they're that valuable to the organization? That's a fair question. I think that there have been errors along the way in the way the Oilers have managed these two prospects. I think when you're dealing with first-round picks and high-end prospects, they need to see a very clear plan in place. When they're in the National Hockey League, they need to get minutes. If they're in the American Hockey League, they need to get big minutes. There needs to be a very clear development path laid out for players like this. And I think at times this Oilers organization failed to do that, in particular with Philip Broberg, who oftentimes last season was hauled around on the roster as a seventh defenseman getting little or no minutes, which prompted a trade request last season. So in the absence of a clear development plan, I think there was significant frustration in Broberg's camp, and in a lot of ways that's what led to them being where they are here today. No question this hurts the Oilers from a development standpoint. They have good young players still in the organization thanks to some of the trades they've made in this offseason, but likely an evaluation of the way they're handling these top-end picks is something that this team absolutely needs to do. So Stan Bowman electing not to match the offer sheets, expected to do a media availability around 11 o'clock or so on Mountain Time, where perhaps we'll even get an update on the status of negotiations with Leon Draisaitl.